My girlfriend had a secret second life, and I found too late. If someone told me a year ago that the love of my life was living a double life, I would have laughed in their face. But now I've got photos, messages, receipts, evidence of a reality I never asked to see. And what I found, it changed everything. We met at a bookstore. She was standing in front of the horror section, reading the back of Stephen King's Misery. I joked that anyone reading that book might be a little unhinged. She looked up, smirked, and said, "You have no idea. I should have paid attention to that." Her name was Elise. Sharp wit, sarcastic charm, beauty that felt effortless. We started dating a week after that encounter. Everything clicked. She remembered little details: my favorite breakfast, the way I liked my coffee, the songs I hummed under my breath. It felt like she really saw me. 6 months in, she moved into my place. It was fast, but it felt right. We had routines, inside jokes. Sunday morning pancakes. My friends loved her. My mom adored her. It was like I'd finally found someone who fit into my life, like she'd always been there. But little cracks started forming. She was secretive about her phone, always had it on silent, took calls in the bathroom. If I walked into the room, she'd tilt the screen away just slightly. Subtle, but enough to notice. I asked once, jokingly, "Who are you always texting? Your secret second boyfriend?" She laughed. "Yeah, my other boyfriend lives in Canada." I smiled, but something in my gut twisted. Then she started disappearing some weekends, girls' trips, she said. No photos, no FaceTime, always came back with some random trinket and a new perfume I'd never smelled before. One night, I woke up to her standing by the window at AM, whispering on the phone. I pretended to be asleep. I could barely make out what she was saying. "He doesn't suspect anything." I wanted to believe I was dreaming, but something told me this was real. I was about to start pulling on that thread. And once I did, the entire thing unraveled. After that night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Her words haunted me. He doesn't suspect anything. Who was he? What didn't I suspect? The way she stood in the moonlight, barefoot by the window, whispering like she was part of some spy movie, it was burned into my brain. I started noticing more things, little things, like how her bank notifications would flash across her lock screen, charges from places I didn't recognize, a fancy restaurant in the city, a boutique I knew she never mentioned. When I asked about them, she brushed me off. "It's just a place me and Kat went to. Girl stuff. You wouldn't care." But I did care. I just didn't want to sound paranoid. I didn't want to be that boyfriend. But paranoia has a funny way of growing, especially when it keeps being fed. One afternoon, she left her laptop open while she was in the shower. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But I saw a notification pop up in the corner, an email from someone named D. The subject line said, "Friday night plans." My stomach dropped. I opened it. It was a chain of messages. Casual, flirty, way too familiar. Things like, "I can't stop thinking about last weekend. He still doesn't know. I booked us the same hotel, room 306, just like always. Room 306, just like always." That line made my skin crawl. I scrolled further. There were photos, him and Elise, at a beach, in a city I'd never been to, her in a red dress I'd never seen before, her smiling in ways she didn't smile around me anymore. I felt sick. My girlfriend had a whole other life with someone else, and it wasn't just physical, it was emotional, intimate, the way she looked at him in those photos. I hadn't seen that look in months. I didn't confront her right away. I needed more, proof I couldn't unsee, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. That Friday night, she said she was going to Kat's for a sleepover. I waited 45 minutes after she left, then I got in my car and tailed her. She didn't go to Kat's. She drove to the city, parked near a hotel I'd never heard of. I watched her walk inside in heels and a silk dress, holding a small overnight bag. 20 minutes later, I walked in too, told the front desk I left my wallet in room 306. Elise had told me the number without realizing it would haunt me. The woman at the desk didn't even question it. She handed me a spare key. I took the elevator up, each floor heavier than the last. My heart was thudding in my ears, my hands were shaking. I didn't know what I'd do when I opened that door. But I did open it, and what I saw, it wasn't just betrayal, it was something I never could have imagined. The key card beeped, the lock clicked, and for a second, I stood frozen in front of the door to room 306. Every voice in my head screamed, "Don't do it," but my body moved anyway. I pushed it open, expecting the worst, expecting to catch her with him, tangled in sheets, a clutch betrayal playing out like some cruel movie. But that's not what I saw. The room was dimly lit, smelling faintly of cologne and something sweet, champagne maybe. There was music playing low on a speaker, a romantic playlist humming in the background. Candles burned beside the bed. Elise stood near the window, wearing that red silk dress from the photo. But she wasn't with anyone. She was alone, or so I thought. She turned sharply when she saw me. Her expression didn't shift to guilt or shock, it shifted to fear. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice tight, eyes flicking toward the bathroom door. That's when I heard it, a muffled voice, male. Talking, maybe humming, then water running. The shower. I took a step forward. "Who's here?" "No one," she said, too fast. "You need to leave, now." I wasn't having it. I stormed past her toward the bathroom. "Stop," she yelled, grabbing my arm, but I shoved the door open. Steam rolled out, fogging up the mirror. A man stood in the shower behind the glass, tall, lean. But what caught me wasn't his face, it was the military dog tags hanging from his neck, the same ones Elise kept on her nightstand at our apartment, saying they belonged to her late brother. The man turned. He looked exactly like the photos she showed me. "Elijah," I said, stunned. He stared at me, confused, then looked toward Elise. "Who is this?" I looked between them. "Your brother, Elise. You told me he died 2 years ago. Car accident." She didn't speak, just turned ghost white, and that's when Elijah said something that chilled me to the core. "I'm not her brother." I felt my knees weaken. "What?" He stepped out, wrapping a towel around his waist. "We've been dating for 6 years. Elise finally spoke, her voice a low tremble. "Please, I can explain." "Explain what?" I snapped. "That you've been living a double life? That you faked a dead brother just to keep your stories straight?" But Elijah looked just as shocked as I was. "Wait, she told you I was her brother?" The silence between us was unbearable. I started to laugh, the kind of laugh that comes from the edge of madness. None of it made sense. My girlfriend, the woman I lived with, loved, trusted, had lied about something this massive. For what? To keep 2 relationships alive? To control the narrative? Or something worse? And then Elijah said the thing that changed everything. "She told me you were her cousin, that you were dying, that she was just taking care of you out of pity." That's when the realization hit. She hadn't been juggling 2 lives. She had created 2 entirely different realities, and neither of us knew who she really was. The silence in the hotel room felt deafening. Elise sat on the edge of the bed, knees together, hands clenched in her lap. Elijah stood in the corner, towel still wrapped around his waist, staring at her like she was a stranger. And me, I was pacing, mind racing, every second dragged like an eternity. "You told me he was dead," I said, breaking the silence. She didn't respond. "You said he died in a crash." You cried, showed me pictures of a funeral. "You wore a necklace with his initials." Still nothing. Elijah snapped. "You told me he was your terminally ill cousin, that you were just helping him get through his last few months. That's why I didn't ask questions when you were gone. You made me feel guilty for even wondering." I looked at him. "You've been with her for 6 years? 6, he said. "She moved in with me 4 years ago, said she worked 2 jobs, one in the city, one remotely." That's how she explained disappearing for days. It started clicking into place. All the work trips, the weekends she was unreachable, the subtle shift in her moods, the double wardrobes, the burner phone I found once and she claimed was for emergencies. She had built 2 lives from scratch, 2 personalities. And we had both been living in her fiction. I turned to her again. "Who are you?" Still, she said nothing, just sat there, staring at the floor, like a kid caught red-handed but not ashamed, almost detached. "Elise, say something." Elijah barked, and then, quietly, she said, "I didn't think I'd get caught." That sentence hit me harder than all the lies. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I was confused." Just pure, cold calculation. "You planned this," I said. "You planned to keep both of us. You lied about death, illness, you lied to keep your story clean." She finally looked up, eyes glassy but dry. "You both gave me something I needed." "What?" I scoffed. "A place to sleep and an ego boost." "No," she said, voice trembling. "You gave me safety, and he gave me freedom, and I didn't want to choose." Elijah let out a disgusted laugh. "So we were your emotional support dolls?" Her voice cracked. "You don't understand. When I'm with you, I feel like I belong somewhere. When I'm with him, I feel alive, and I didn't think either of you could handle the whole me." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest, not because I still loved her but because she had no remorse, no guilt, only this twisted belief that her manipulation was a kind of emotional self-care. That's when Elijah stepped forward. "I'm done," he said, grabbing his clothes off the floor, "and you're going to explain this to everyone, your parents, my sister, everyone who thought we were getting married next spring. What? I turned. Married? Elise stood slowly. I hadn't said yes yet. You hadn't said no, either. Elijah shot back. I walked to the door. I couldn't breathe in that room anymore. Before I left, I turned and said the last words I ever said to her. You didn't just break our hearts, you played God with our lives, and now you're going to have to live with the mess you made. And then I left, but it wasn't over, because a week later, a message appeared on my phone. From someone I didn't know, and what they told me made everything worse. A week passed. I tried to move on, blocked her, deleted photos. I even told my closest friends the whole story just to get it out of my system, like maybe if I said it enough, it'd stop looping in my head. But trauma has a way of sticking, and betrayal, that's a special kind of poison. Then, out of nowhere, I got a DM. It was from someone named Mia, no mutuals, no profile photo, just a gray silhouette. Normally, I'd ignore something like that, but the message preview stopped me cold. Hey, I think we need to talk. I'm Elise's fiancé. I froze. Not girlfriend. Not ex-fiancé. Elise was engaged again? I clicked the message. This is going to sound insane, but I think you and I were both part of something much bigger than we realized. I found your number through her phone backup. I didn't know who you were until I started digging. I need answers, because Elise disappeared 3 days ago. Disappeared? I sat there, reading that message over and over. I couldn't make sense of it. I thought I knew the full scope of her lies, but this? A third person, and this time a woman. I messaged back. Where are you? We need to meet. We did. A day later, at a coffee shop halfway between both of us, Mia was quiet, sharp-eyed, and shaking slightly when we met. She had a folder of printed texts, photos, even surveillance footage from a Ring camera, Elise's face smiling into it, walking in and out of another home, another life. She told me she was a travel nurse, Mia said. Said she had rotating shifts across the state. That's why she was gone so often. Elise had an entirely separate identity with Mia. New name Elisa Monroe, new job, different background story, even a fake ID. They'd been together for 3 years, lived together for 2. Elise had proposed on a beach vacation 6 months ago. There was a ring, a date, everything. And then she vanished, no warning, no note. Her phone stopped ringing, her email bounced back, credit cards were canceled, she was gone. Mia looked at me, eyes wide and red. She took everything, drained my account, emptied our joint savings, the wedding fund. My name was on the lease. I had to report her to the police. I felt sick again, like I was right back in room 306. Only now, the game was even bigger. Elise wasn't just a cheater, she was a con artist. A manipulator who changed masks the way most people change clothes. We weren't people to her, we were roles, props, resources, and the scariest part, none of us really knew who she was. No real documents, no verified birth certificate. The woman we knew as Elise Carter was a ghost, a shapeshifter, a fiction built on scraps of charm and lies. The last thing Mia said to me still rings in my head. If she disappeared this easily, how many other lives has she lived before us? And I didn't have an answer. Because maybe we weren't the beginning of the story, maybe we were just chapters in a much bigger book, and someone out there still doesn't know they're next. I wish I could say that's where it ends, that after everything, after the lies, the cheating, the fake identities, I finally got closure, but that would be another lie. Elise, or whatever her real name is, was never found. The police opened a case, but with no real name, no confirmed ID, no financial trace. She vanished like smoke. The apartment she shared with Mia, abandoned. Our place, she never came back for a single thing, not even the necklace I thought was her brother's. Sometimes I wonder if she's out there right now, wearing a new face, a new name, smiling the way she smiled at me in that bookstore the first day we met. Starting fresh with someone new, someone who doesn't suspect a thing. I look back now, trying to find the red flags, the warnings, the little tells that could have saved me, but the truth is, people like her, they don't just lie to your face, they become the lie. They study you, shape themselves into what you need, and when they've taken everything, they disappear. So if you're watching this and thinking, that could never happen to me, that's what I thought too, but she didn't pick me because I was dumb. She picked me because I trusted her, and that was the most dangerous thing I ever did. If you made it this far, drop a comment below and tell me, do you think people like Elise are born that way, or made? And have you ever dated someone who didn't just break your heart but broke reality? Like, share, and follow for more true stories that sound too insane to be real, because sometimes real life is the scariest story of all.